Deputy Leader of the Opposition, please continue with your debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we took the lunch break, I was commenting on the fact that this bill, and I was saying that the road to hell is often paved with good intentions. The bill has been sterilized in a sense so that it can become more acceptable to people. And that's why I see that, it didn't go so far as to properly define what a domestic partnership was. And there's hardly a mention of same-sex anywhere in there. But I was saying, Madam Speaker, that you cannot get away from the root of why this bill is before this honorable House. And we have to ask ourselves, Madam Speaker, if we are happy as representatives with passing this bill and considering the things that I have pointed out that I think will be side effects of this bill. Are we content as representatives of the people to let it through? So, Madam Speaker, I move on to another area that concerns us all as representatives, and that is our constituents. I am not so naive to believe that I don't have constituents who support this bill or what it's trying to do. I know that. And I know that some of them will be disappointed that I didn't support it. But, Madam Speaker, I also know that there are those who are happy with the position I'm taking today. And you might ask yourself, well, how do I know that? Madam Speaker, I took the time to conduct, apart from the conversations and the phone calls and the WhatsApp messages, to conduct an online survey using SurveyMonkey, which is an established, well-known survey platform. And I sent out a survey not just to my constituents, but generally. And the survey allowed people to answer a set of questions in relation to this bill and provided me with insight and feedback on their views. And while it can't be called an official poll or survey, what I did notice is that a lot of the people who took the time to answer provided contact details. So I'm now in a position where I could go and verify each and every person. Not each and every person, but a majority of the persons who took the time to complete the survey. And as the member from Savannah mentioned, Madam Speaker, we got a good feedback of how our constituents felt. We got over 600 responses in a couple days, about 3 days. And while that is not an overwhelming majority of Caymanians or persons resident in this country, it was a good enough sample. And I've checked that as well, using what I can remember from my statistics days. And it gave me a good insight into what the feeling was on the ground. Madam Speaker, the first question in the survey was whether or not do you agree with Section 14 of the Bill of Rights, which says government shall respect the right of every unmarried man and woman of marriageable age to marry a person of the opposite sex and found a family. 72% answered yes, 25% answered no, 2.4% were undecided. Then I sent another one. Well, the second question was, were you aware that the government launched a public consultation on the Domestic Partnership Bill 2020 on June 26, 2020? 62% said no. 37.2% said yes. Next question is, do you know where to send your feedback and views on the Domestic Partnership Bill 2020 for consideration by the government? Now, this is getting back to the point I was talking about earlier, Madam Speaker, where people didn't even know that this was where to send their information, or most didn't know that it was happening. 82% said no, they didn't know where to send their views and feedback. 17.7% said yes. The next question was, do you think you will have had sufficient time to express your views on the Domestic Partnership Bill 2020 to your representative and/or the government prior to the bill going to the Assembly on July 27, 2020 for debate and vote? 66% said no, 22% said yes, 12% said they weren't sure. The next question, do you think there needs to be more public consultation before this legislation is debated and voted on? Madam Speaker, 79% said yes, 17% said no, 4% were undecided. Do you agree with the Domestic Partnership Bill 2020 being gazetted and sent to the legislature for passage without the government first completing a period of public consultation? 81% said no. 14% said yes. 5% weren't quite sure. Do you believe that the government has a political mandate from the Caymanian people to implement domestic partnerships allowing same-sex couples to be joined? 25% yes, 64% no, 10% undecided. How would you prefer to provide your views and wishes with regard to domestic partnerships? Now, this question you could answer more than one choice, and the choices were referendum, town hall meetings, meetings with my representative, surveys, and questionnaires. "53% said referendum, 19% said town hall meetings, 20% meetings with my representative, 39% surveys, 20% questionnaires. Do you agree with legislation that will allow domestic partnerships between same-sex couples? 69.51% said no. 25% said yes. 5% undecided. Do you agree with the matrimonial causes law and the maintenance law applying to the dissolution of a domestic partnership in the same way that they apply to marriage? 58% no, 26% yes, undecided 15%. Do you agree that our legislation should recognize same-sex marriages and partnerships entered into in other jurisdictions? 72% no, 24% yes, 4% undecided. Do you agree with Cayman Islands registered ships having the authority to create domestic partnerships? 67% no, 18% yes, 16% undecided. Do you think this legislation conflicts with the Cayman Islands Constitution? 68% yes, 21% no, undecided, 11%. And this is important, Madam Speaker, because we've talked about this one. Many people have discussed this in their debates. Do you agree with persons between the age of 16 and 18 being able to enter domestic partnerships without parental consent via the courts? 87% no. 8% yes. 6% undecided. Do you agree with persons who have not yet graduated from high school being able to enter a domestic partnership? And I have to guess this one because that page got lost, but 80, not guess, but I'm looking at the graph now. About 87% no. 15% yes. And about 10% undecided. So, Madam Speaker, I got sufficient feedback through this survey and also through discussions with my constituents, discussions with the church leaders, discussions with the general public, discussions via messenger, WhatsApp, email correspondence sent to me. And all of that led me in one direction. The country is not yet prepared to support this legislation. And that was clear to me. And as I said at the beginning, Madam Speaker, this is not about my personal views on this or any of our personal views on this. This is about the people's views and the people's wishes. And we cannot expect to impose anything on the people of this country and not give them the opportunity to properly weigh in and give their feedback before we move forward. And I would strongly urge the government sorry, to rethink their position on this bill moving forward here today. It is not too late to put the brakes on, because what we're doing here today is against the wishes of the people of the Cayman Islands. Not me. Don't worry about me. The people I represent, the people we all represent. Madam Speaker, that's not it. Madam Speaker, I was looking for a copy of a press release that just came out from the Cayman Ministers Association, and I'd asked for a copy to be printed, but I think the wrong thing came back to me. I think I must have sent the wrong email. Okay. Thank you to the member from Georgetown Central. No, that's not it. Let me just read that. With your permission, Madam Speaker, could I read this press release and I will provide the copy afterwards?
Absolutely, yes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Response to the Domestic Partnership Bill. The executive of the Cayman Ministers Association, CMA, wishes to record their disagreement with the Domestic Partnership Bill. Our position has always been that we cannot support any legislation which goes against the teachings of Scripture. While we understand the efforts to satisfy the directives of the Court of Appeals to specifically cater for some same-sex unions, we cannot support this directive because it is contrary to the teachings of the Bible regarding marriage, the family, and human sexuality. God is the one who began and sustains the whole process of human existence. He is the one who created us. He knows what is best for us. He ensured this information was communicated to us through His Word. the Bible. We, the executive of the CMA, are convinced that what God has stated in His Word is in the best interest of the well-being of the people of the Cayman Islands. To go against this is to jeopardize our Christian heritage and the important family structures and beliefs that have been responsible for the stability and progress that the Cayman Islands have enjoyed. Madam Speaker, that is the position of the CMA. I think we've finally now settled what their position is. I know there was some back and forth yesterday with regard to that. And it reflects, we have to think deeply about this, not just the executive's position, you know. They are speaking on behalf of their congregations. Those ministers wouldn't put out a press release if they didn't have the support of their congregations. And while, thank you, while it is, you can get this to her, it is their responsibility to represent the views of their congregations and our responsibility to represent the views of all people, we have to represent the majority. And that is what I have to say. I know that people in my constituency wanted this to pass today and they wanted me to support it, and I couldn't, because I have to represent the majority, not the minority wishes. I wish I could please everybody, but I can't. I am elected to represent what the majority wish. And I took the time, Madam Speaker, to go out and find out what that majority view was. And I'm comfortable. I am also comfortable in myself that if I am wrong, I will know next election, next May. I will know. The people will decide who they want to lead them next time around. But I have to do my job, my responsibility, to the best of my ability, without thinking about the next election. I have to represent my constituents to the best of my ability and do what I think is in their best interest. And today, not supporting this bill is in their best interest. There has not been sufficient consultation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what is the role of this legislature? What is our role? The Premier suggested yesterday that if we didn't support this bill, we would be derelict in our responsibilities. He might not use those words, but that's what he suggested. Sorry? So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that I think passing this bill will make us irresponsible representatives. Madam Speaker, Parliament exists for one single purpose: to create laws that reflect the wishes of the people. Peace, order, and good governance. Before humankind had laws, we had rules. We had general understandings. That's the origin of laws. It was known, established, that you do not kill, you do not steal. Those understandings evolved into laws, the laws that we live by today. But they came from the people, the community. They decided this is how we want to live. Every 4 years, Madam Speaker, the people of this country decide who gets the honor and the privilege to come here to make, repeal, or amend those laws. But we cannot do it without consulting them. We cannot turn the equation upside down on its head and say, I am now Lord and Master and you must do as I say. We cannot do that. That is not representation. That is not democracy. Democracy is when the people choose a commoner to come here and represent them. The leader of the opposition taught me that. I didn't know what House of Commons meant, until he and I had a discussion about it. Commoners, we are commoners representing the common man.
And you regretted ever since, I'll tell you something.
Madam Speaker, for us to put ourselves in a position where we are now telling the people of this country that we are doing this and you're not stopping us. And then we went through a process where the people didn't even get a chance, a proper chance, to influence the outcome of this bill. If we had done that, maybe it wouldn't be so contentious. Maybe when the people's wishes were embedded into this bill, it would have been acceptable to not just us, the legislators, not just the common man in the communities, but the church leaders, the religious leaders of this country, who I put on the same level as myself. They have a responsibility too, and they lead and they direct. We've chosen them to be leaders in this community as well, and we can't just ignore them. Cayman was built on our Christian traditions. Our success story, he hath founded it upon the seas. That's the root of it. That's where it comes from. That comes from the Bible, the Holy Bible. We cannot forget that. If we start to forget that, we're going to lose our way. So, Madam Speaker, I certainly, based on what I have said here today, can't support this bill. And the threat of what we worked so hard to get, that we went to the UK and we negotiated changes to give us more autonomy, more authority in our own country. The threat that that will be yanked away because we want to promote self-determination, exactly. And we want to be masters of our future and our domain. And we want to do things our way, the way that has brought us to where we are today. For that threat to be dangled over us now, that we're not going to get the constitutional amendments, and for any of us to support that argument, then we don't deserve those amendments. We don't deserve that authority and that autonomy. If we can't be men and women and stand up here today and stand up for our country and say, no, you're not going to push us around. You're not going to make us forget about where we are, who we are, and where we came from. If they want to take them away, then take them away. Because, like the leader of the opposition, I'm not going down on my knees. I bow before God. But those are my personal feelings, Madam Speaker.
Tell them so what?
Those are my feelings. But one thing I will never do, and in keeping my promise to my mother, my children, is make politics change me. Whether I pay a political price for that later on, I will have to accept that. But I'm not changing here today.
You think you're the only one that lost something, yeah? All that's got to do is, at some stage,
Madam Speaker, I hear discussions about the rule of law, and I hear about the courts having a say in what we do over here. Madam Speaker,
the Attorney General coming next week, I found him up about that for rule of law.
I do not subscribe to that
You know, he got
belief.
Him and Alden is twins in a bucket.
Madam Speaker, Parliament has the power through legislation both to protect and promote the rule of law and to also undermine it, be it consciously or inadvertently. Those are not my words. A.V. Dicey. So we have the authority to decide what goes in this country, what our laws reflect. We have the authority given to us by the people, and that is the root of democracy. And I am not going to disrespect that. So I hope everyone understands clearly why I cannot support this bill. I am looking at the longer-term effects of what is to come, what this bill will introduce into this country. And like the leader of the opposition, I wish we could find a way to please everybody. But until that day comes, I have to please God, my constituents, not myself. That is my position. We are all responsible for our own individual positions. I'm not preaching to anyone. I'm not coercing anyone. I'm not trying to scare anyone. We all climb out on the limb on our own. If it gets too heavy, it breaks. Let's not carry some extra weight out there with us, because when that limb breaks with you, you're probably going to be the one to get hurt, because whoever's holding on with you is going to fall on top of you. Go out on the limb on your own, if you have to go out on the limb. Madam Speaker, I want to thank all honorable members for listening to me. I want to thank you as well. Yeah, I was going to lay this, Madam Speaker, with your permission. Thank you.
Please proceed.
And I hope that, Madam Speaker, that my words got through to someone today. We don't have to do this today. We can take a quick pause and discuss this some more amongst ourselves, because I'm confident that the people of the Cayman Islands are not happy with what we're doing here today. They're not. Don't take silence for consent, because there's a silent majority out there who is listening and watching, and they're not pleased. It is not too late to fix this. It is not too late to do what is right by the people of this country. Throwing this on the people now, without them having had their say in this, is wrong, and I cannot be party to that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.